Hey guys, welcome back inside the stash. Today we're going to do a little mini bench update, show you what we've been working on with the Toyota Corona Macau car. I got a box of things in from Hobby Link Japan that we need to show you guys, and then also we'll talk about a couple of the upcoming local contests that'll be coming up here in September. It just occurs to me as I sit here and say that I have not looked up when the Sharon show is. So I will blather on a little bit while I plow up the IPMS show, because that'll be one of the things that probably will go to this year, assuming that I'm not working that day. For people who follow our Staff Project Instagram, you guys caught me working a rare Saturday last weekend, which is why this Corona's not further than it was. I got a bunch of stuff done last week on it and sort of got into the next sort of phase, if you will, where I have to paint some more major components in order to continue to build. I planned to do that last weekend. They called me in Friday night to come in and work very early Saturday morning, and what turned out to be like, well, if you guys know anybody who's a truck driver, our shifts tend to be 12 hours. We're not 9 to 5 office people. So, that ended up taking up pretty much my weekend, because Sunday we had other stuff to do. And so, as it stands, as I'm filming this mid of the next week, it's, not quite where we want it to be. So, upcoming shows that we will be attending, at least we plan to, September the, where'd it go? I just had it up here. September the 15th will be SFASCon 34, which is the Shenango Valley Area Scale Modelers Con. It's an IPMS show, obviously. That is let's see, the 15th, I believe, is a Sunday? No, it's a Saturday. Okay, so that's a Saturday afternoon. It's in Sharon, Pennsylvania, which is northwest, or I should say, northwest Pennsylvania, really central West Pennsylvania. It's more or less across the state line from like a Youngstown area, northeast Ohio. It's probably about an hour and a half drive from here. So assuming we don't work that Saturday, I'm going to go ahead and go to that. Again, assuming I have something to show. I'm really trying to get this Corona and a few other things done for the shows I'm about to tell you about. If we happen to get them done early and I can go up to Sharon, we'll take a whack at that as well. Because Sharon is one of the shows that I used to go to as a kid. I made one return to that show without entering anything, probably 9 or 10 years ago. It's at a completely different place than it used to be. It used to be in Hermitage, which is next door to Sharon, town-wise, but it used to be at a different place. So it's been that long, and I know they moved it not very recently. It's been a while. And but it's a show I used to go to as a kid to compete, and won a few things added over the years. But the last time I went, it was just like I was visiting my parents. They happened to live, or my parents at the time. My mom has passed, for anybody who realizes. But at any rate, I went to that show, just because I was visiting them, and it happened to be that weekend. And from their house to Sharon was like a 20-minute drive across the state line. So again, we'll go to that if we can get around to it. Having my weekends off allows me to do a great deal more things. I know PennCon's going on the same day, which is a show in Carlisle, out in the central part of Pennsylvania. But obviously, closer, I'll take the closer show on that. I know there's probably a couple more shows that we'll look at going to towards the end of the year. There's usually a show on the west side of Cleveland, usually early November. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is, November 4th, up in Kirtland. But the last weekend of September, we will be at both, again, if I don't work Saturday, we'll be at the Y-City Scale Modeler Show, which is held in Zanesville. Now, that's at a new location. If I remember, here's a flyer. The theme is 1/20th scale kits, because it is their 20th anniversary. It's kind of an oddball thing for, obviously, normal automotive modelers, but of course the F1 guys got to flock to this show and get yourselves out of competition so that I can put my Corona in and not have to worry about going up against, really good detailed F1 builds. And then the other show is this. Let me bring myself back up on camera where I can see it. Is the Three Rivers Auto Modelers. We call it 3RAM around here. It's the 40th annual show and contest. Now, that's something obviously I've been going to since I was a kid too. I'm sure I was at least the 20th annual Actually, probably no, more like the 15th, 16th, and 17th annual. 20th annual, I would have been driving a truck by then. So anyway, that's going on Sunday, September 30th. So that's the last Sunday of the year back at the Castle Shannon Volunteer Fire Hall. For anybody who went to that, well, the show itself was not a disaster. The venue was awful, and that would be last year's out in Monroeville. Normal classes, and I know this is a copywriting error, but I will pick on them since they're the competing automotive club here in Pittsburgh. The theme this year is Mobius Madness. Anything built by Mobius. Now, I don't know who that is. That's Mobius, not Mobius. I don't know how many of these they ran off. This one they actually mailed to me. That's why it's folded and trifold like that. Rocky and everybody else over Three Rivers. That's a significant typo there. I mean, yeah, it's piddly typo, but it changes the entire company, does it not? So there's that. We'll be at those two shows, and then we'll sort of take a look at what other shows will be going on in the fall. For the last couple of years, I've worked jobs that I've worked every single weekend, and just trying to get a day off to go to like Three Rivers or something like that was a huge issue. I know that the last weekend of this September is also Diversified Scalers, so we'll throw a shout out to those guys. I'd love to go to their show, but they keep insisting on scheduling it the same weekend that our local shows are here in Pittsburgh. I know they don't do it on purpose, but insisting. So one of these days, I'd love to get out to Diversified Scalers. I mean, they're having it at the same venue that the NNL East is at, the Police Athletic League building out there in Wayne Township, New Jersey. So it's been getting bigger and bigger to get into that bigger venue last year. And again, I love to come out there and support the guys, see George and everybody out there. But in order to come back here for Three Rivers on a Sunday, I would have to basically deal with whatever work I'm doing on Friday and then drive, 5.5 hours to New Jersey, go to the show, and then drive 5.5 hours back here to go to the show Sunday morning. And I just really, I don't want to cross the entire width of Pennsylvania twice in 24 hours like that. So I will pass again this year. Maybe somebody will move a show. I don't know. I'll see everybody at NNL East, I would assume. At least my plans will be to go to NNL East this year once again, since I'll have the weekends off. And then I guess that takes us to the Corona. The last time you guys saw the Corona, I think all I had done to this kit was paint the chassis, which was, as you can see, molded in black, right? So people who follow me on various social medias, although not on like Twitter or Instagram, I never put those pictures out on that, but on Facebook and stuff like that, have seen shots of this as I built it up. What we've got done so far to this is pretty much, I would say, step 1.5 of the instructions, or step 2.5 of the instructions, because I've got some things here that are done on the third step of the build, and I still need to actually put a couple little pieces on the rear suspension from the second part. But the chassis, now, I don't know why I'm doing it this way, but now it looks like this. The engine was painted a variety of different metallics and things like that. The main part of the engine block is semi-gloss black. There's some aluminum on there. The pipes, the exhaust pipe itself is all copper, and then there's some aluminum on the intake side of things there. The rest of the pipe itself is like this little, muffler, if you will, little catalytic converters, steel, and then it's just got X11 strap tie downs there on the actual muffler itself. Everything on these chassis pieces is pretty much semi-gloss black. The wheel hubs, which aren't going to show up because I'm sort of tilting this on the side, are metallic brown because they're supposed to be burnt iron according to the instructions. So metallic brown's a good close match to that. And that's pretty much where it stands right now. This is a really convoluted, as far as building it, front end. It takes like 7 hands to get it all together, but once you get it together, it fits magnificently. The same thing sort of goes for the rear suspension. The buildup of it is a little weird as you do it, but from an engineering standpoint, once it's completed, it makes sense. That one doesn't quite need as many hands to fill it, because you can put some pieces together and then put the pieces on the model, whereas the front end assembly, in order for the wheels to still, or the steering to still work, you can't glue certain pieces to certain pieces, so you sort of have to have them free hanging and things like that. The uprights on the suspension sort of actually clip onto the piece that has the lower A-arms, much like the little C-clamps that are on the end of the tie rods and the steering arms. So that's a kind of a neat little feature. I mean, once you get everything all, like I said, it's just one of those things that takes a little bit of patience. Test fitting is your friend as far as figuring out how it goes together, and then applying your glue and everything like that. It was kind of one of those things I've said online. I pay way too much attention to painting the engine because you can still see parts of the engine now, but once, and this would be part of the third step, and I have to paint this part yet, which is why it's not installed. There will be this piece that goes over top of the, if I can get it to go on here while I'm trying to talk to you guys. There's this piece here which goes on the actual front part of the frame, and it is the air ducting for the cooling system, and then it also carries the brake ducts. And when that goes on, obviously, whoops, it fell off. When that goes on, obviously it's going to cover up the rest of this. This is going to be a steel color, so it's going to be very nice contrasting. It's not all going to be all black underneath there. And then the brake ducts are these pieces here, and they attach onto the sides like this, and then feed, well, actually that's the wrong side, but they attach onto here like this, and then feed into the lower, into the suspension, to the brakes. Brakes are in the first stages of painting. I have a photo etch set for this kit, so obviously I'm going to use the photo etch brake faces and things like that. I've got the wheel, the seat puttied up for the sink marks that were in the back of that. I'm going to try to do the fabric seat belts on this. I've never done that before. I played with some photo etch, but I've not actually done the whole cutting up the fabric and trying to make seat belts out of it, so that'll be a new experience. One of the things I always sort of champion online anyway for model building is always, trying something new and expanding your skill set, so we're going to certainly try to expand the skill set a little bit. And then once I get around to it here, I've got to paint the door panels because these are black and white because of this car being a also run, if you will, car. This actual physical car in 1-1 was a Japanese touring car championship car that was then not so much sold but used in the Macau race. So a lot of the car is still painted up like the JTCC car. That's why the chassis is white on a black car. The interior is going to be white on a black car. Normally you would have the chassis and the interior and things like that be painted the same color as the car, but since this car ran the JTCC season and then a couple months later would go to run this race and finish third, the car was just repainted bodies wise for the new livery. It wasn't done completely and totally for the new paint. They didn't paint the whole thing. Basically what I'm getting at there. So side panels for this, I've got to paint the wheels white, and then I have the wheel tub itself. One thing I've noticed about this wheel tub as I was drilling the holes out, because there's a whole bunch of holes you have to drill out to mount like the fire bottle and the footrest for the pedal set. And there's a mount, a mount for the seat, which is also done in photo etch. You don't have to use the kit part for it. Is that, and this is probably not going to really show up terribly well, but as you see up here, there's these divots here, and there's a matching set of divots here. This is where the clutch and the brake and gas hang, and obviously on this side it'll be gas, brake, and clutch. So this piece, and you can maybe kind of see on the bottom here, there's a whole bunch of pre-drilled out holes that I haven't drilled out. This interior is pre-plumbed, if you will, from the factory to also be a left-hand drive car. So it'll be interesting to see what other plans they have for this kit in terms of future releases for it, because obviously for people who have this kit, there's a second grill in here that we don't use, building it as the Corona. And obviously now, with actually paying attention to it as I build it, I'm seeing that there are provisions. Now, there isn't a right-hand drive, there isn't a left-hand drive dashboard in the kit already, and there aren't left-hand drive pedal sets or wipers or anything like that in the kit. It only comes right-hand drive because it's supposed to be a JDM car, and of course it was talk too much with my hands when it was raced in Gia, that would be normally a place where you have a left-hand drive car unless you're recycling a used race car, which is what this was. So obviously they did not change it to left-hand drive for one race. The whole reason I mentioned the seat, because it made me giggle looking at it, is I obviously did the putting and I cleaned up the putty so it's all flat. But, if you sand putty, it's dusty. So I went ahead and washed the part back off so that I would not have to deal with the dust of the putty painting it. And I left it sitting on the edge of my basin sink in my basement for the better part of the last 8 days without realizing that I had left it there, because I've washed it off, threw a load of laundry in the washer, kids yelled or screamed, went to go take care of that, forgot all about the seat, and I went down this morning to put another load of laundry in to wash my uniforms for work and my wife's uniforms for work, and this thing's just still sitting there. Doesn't sound like a great big issue. However, you don't have a house with 4 cats in it. I don't know how in the world that didn't get knocked off there and hockey played, and I would have not had a seat to this race car anymore. I'm sure I could have found one somewhere that I have laying around. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty sure I have a second seat that looks pretty much just like that from a McLaren build, but I would just as soon not lose the included seat, because this seat's drilled out for the seat belts, whereas most racing seats are, molded thin where the seat belts would be, but they're not actually cut through. So, like I said, we're basically here in the instructions. I've got to, like I said, mount this intake diffuser. I've already mounted these two together and sanded the seam out of them for these intakes for the brake cooling. We've got to build up this fuel tank. Now, the part itself, I can get this to show, is one big piece here, but there's a photo etch sort of sleeve that goes over top. And then we put the brakes together, and she'll be up on wheels, and then we go, over here into building the interior. So, one thing I think is kind of a screw job as far as the instructions are drawn. 2 things just pay attention to. First of all, this drill out thing is showing you the chassis from the bottom, not from the top. Because if you look at this chassis, it's it's this way and it's this way. Which way is up? It's really hard to delineate, a pattern unless you look very closely at this drawing. You see there's a hole, if you will, in between the seats. Not really a tranny hump because it's a front-wheel drive car. And then, oh, hey, that goes on the bottom. So we're talking about the thing being arranged this way. And then again, that's very important since there are a whole bunch of duplicate holes on this thing that are left-hand and right-hand drive. So you would, in effect, not paying attention, drill a whole load of holes into your kit that you don't need to. Matter of fact, they'd be all on the wrong side if you thought that was right side up. Second thing is, you paint the back deck here steel. I think that's a pretty crappy thing to do to you after you've already put the pedal set and the stick shift and some of the engine computer stuff in, to have you try to go back in and tape all that crap off to paint it. So keep a eye on the instructions on that. There was one other thing I wanted to mention real quick, and I can't remember what it was. This kit is very well molded. However, everything has very, very heavy seam lines on it. Like, the parts are really detailed, but everything has a very heavy seam line that is sort of unusual for a newer kit like this. It's nothing flash. It's just there's a very, very, very large delineation in your halves, if you will, of where the mold is coming together. Some pieces it doesn't matter. Other pieces it's very, very much more obvious. It's a 6 1/2 dozen the other if it matters to you, but for people who watch their seams, there are a lot of seams to watch for. And there was something else about this kit that was like, hey, Danger Will Robinson, but I can't remember what it was right now. That'll probably be something that pops back into my mind as I think about it. However, at the moment, I'm sort of paging through the instructions, trying to jog my memory. I don't remember what it is anymore. So, whoops. It is what it is. So let's go into the stuff that got shipped over. This is all older stuff from 2 months ago that had to come across. We have the 1 set of decals we got this month, and I know it's outrageous, so only 1 set of decals, but this is the 2016 24 Hours of Nürburgring man filter AMG GT3. A couple different companies make the yellow paint if you want to specifically paint it the correct yellow. Otherwise, yellow is yellow is yellow. It's a bright yellow. It's sort of a Tamiya Chrome Yellow is probably where it's at as far as brightness goes, and then all the green is decals. So a little bit of decaling to do there. Trying to get the focus where it's not so, you know, reflective, but it is what it is. So this will do your 6th place 24 Hours of Nuremberg car for 2016. It remains to be seen, now that we have the Nuremberg Spec M6 officially on the way, if somebody will pick up the ball and do the update, if you will, to the livery that comes in the 24 Hours of Spa kit to update it for Nuremberg Ring. Aside from a few associate sponsorships, obviously different tire brand, in the different number placards, it's not really all that different from the 24 Hours of Spa car. So the question that, you know, I come into when I'm, you know, sort of poking around the edges of getting those decals made is, do we want to go ahead and recreate the entire paint scheme, or do we assume that people who want to build the 24 Hours of Nuremberg Ring car have bought at least one or more of the 24 Hours of Spa car and have built a few other liveries from those Spa cars, and therefore have some spare decals lying around? Because obviously otherwise, providing you with some number placards and a few other things for a kit that is going to come with a completely different livery, the Falcon Racing livery, is, you know, so I'm not exactly sure what we're going to do with that. That's kind of one of those, you know, it's the decals for the few things are going to be a couple bucks. The decals with everything done obviously would cost a great deal more, and there's a whole bunch of sizing, you know, that has to be done with that and stuff like that. So we'll see what we do with that as time goes along. So kits, we got and this came out probably 6 months ago at this point, but I just finally went ahead and grabbed one now, is the 1981 MZ11 first gen Toyota Soarer. This is a Aoshima kit from long ago and far away in terms of the quality of the kit and what it represents, both in real life and in functional scale life. Very, very basic kit. You know, you've got one of these craptastic generic chassis. Everything is molded into about 1.5 inches deep. These giant mounting points for the front suspension. It does come with several sets of wheels. It has a set of BBSs and a set of, I don't know what these things are called, intra wheels. You know, pretty much these are the same set of wheels that come in the Apex GT Kroll 11s. And then on the chrome tree, there's a set of like big and little, or deep and deeper BBS dish wheels. They're like pretty much the same mesh, but they're, like I said, they're deep dish. The only set of tires you get with this are sort of a set of factory stock tires, because that is really the building options that they're focusing on in this kit. It does come with a sort of a more modern tub style. Now, I mean, obviously it's not built up platform style, but a more modern tub style interior that actually has the seats molded to the floor, a la a Fujimi kit, which is a little odd. The kit comes with all of the aero parts that this kit used to come with, including a set of, I'm trying to see what these things say on them, a set of Volk Racing turbo fans and a Mercedes-Benz SL300 style grill. There's a whole bunch of things they did with this kit back in the day. Probably some of them they don't want to talk about. And, you know, body itself is pretty decent. It does have a sunroof carved into it, and it's pretty prominent. I mean, you can see it through the plastic, the outline of it. It's very much something you can feel. So repairing that or cutting a sunroof is going to be your two options there. Still, it's an interesting kit. First gen Soarer, the Tamiya one, Aoshima also made one as well. The second gen one, which is the one that has the engine in it, the Tamiya made, obviously, comes after this. I then also picked up the 1990 JZX81 Toyota Cresta. This kit is very much like its sister kit for the Mark II, where it has both the JZE and the GZE and the GTE engine components. Now, the instructions don't tell you to use them, but They are in there, so you can obviously build them up as you see fit. There's only one set of wheels in this kit, and it is the factory stock wheels. Trying to think if there's anything else really in here that's interesting. It does have some aero parts from the older days. It's got a pretty generic chassis, one of the generic Toyota chassis that's just in a lot of these kits from back in the 1990s. It's a little bit different than the one that I just showed you, but it's also, you know, it's a generic rear-wheel drive Toyota chassis. It looks almost like the one that's in the A86 Trinos, but it's not the exact same chassis, obviously, because it's a sedan versus a coupe. But you can build this, like I said, a couple different trim options with the different engines, decals provided for all of the badging, and just an interesting kit to have back. These haven't really been available for quite a while. I also picked this up, which was the slightly modified reissue using parts that they already had. There were no new parts created for this, so they just threw a set of BBS wheels that they had made for other things in, and this is a FD3S RX-7, the Spirit A Type B. I kind of like that color that it's in, that sort of light blue, tealish, which is more of a teal color. Kind of like that. Let's see if that's a factory color. But it's a 2002 BMW. You do get this one sheet of really, really, really dark smoke glass. Like, that'd be really cool, I guess, if you hacked it off and just used the tail hatch part, or maybe cut the windshield off of it and use the side windows, but that front tint, that ain't going to fly anywhere. You do get a set of just regular. And then beyond that, if you've seen any of these kits before, you have them all. There are the BBS-specific wheels. I'm pretty sure those are the same wheels that are in the final edition Mitsubishi Evo 10. And so, you know, there wasn't really any new wheels made for this. I think it's a pretty good representation of the body as far as the accuracy goes. It is a curbside. You know, Tamiya makes the older FD3S kit with an engine with a rotary in it. It's got the one with a black box art on it. You get the red one, that's the eFINI. That's the JDM only one, and that is a curbside, which is sort of a weird juxtaposition. For some reason, they made that kit two different ways. They made the North American R1, which is the black box art car. It only builds North American spec, and it has an engine. You get the eFINI one, which is the sub-brand that Mazda sold the Miata, the RX-7, and a few other things underneath of, and it's curbside. It's only JDM, and it has, like I said, obviously has no engine in it. So, buyer beware on that, especially if you're looking specifically for the left-hand drive one. That is that Spirit B, only right-hand drive, only JDM, because that trim level was not exported to the United States. Pick this up. This is the Porsche 911 Carrera RS 1974. This is, of course, the Fujimi Enthusiast Series kit. Now, they are selling these kits rebranded into, in this case, the Real Sport Series. But this is, honest to God, an Enthusiast Series kit in here for, 3,000 yen, which is around about 27 bucks. So this was always the hardest one recently, other than like the really old 911s, the 67 and 69. This was the hardest one to find. For some reason, they did not reissue this one when they reissued a lot of the other ones. So good to have that one back. If you've seen one of these 911s, you've seen them all. Also picked this up. This is the Mitsubishi Lancer GSR Evo 3 Hasegawa version. Here you go, Jacques. Here's what your long-traveled Italian Fujimi Evo 3 replaced. It's this. Kit is molded pretty much entirely in silver, which is kind of a little bit of a weirdness. Everything's molded in silver except the wheels, which are white for some reason. The body of this, I think, looks a great deal better than the Fujimi one. Again, no offense to Jacques, you knew what you're buying. But, yeah, it's great to have this kit back, because this is one of these kits that, for a long time, was very hard to find. The only sort of thing I see about this that I'm not a big fan of is the mesh in this is like screen door mesh rather than being an actual mesh. Instance being like a wire mesh, like a lot of the Fujimi reissues were. But I have enough Fujimi reissued Evos with the new mesh in them that I'm sure I can scrape out enough to fill those pieces in for that. And then the last Japanese kit in here, because we did get one German one, is the Team Yamato Civic SB1. Very cool piece. I really like this. The way it's designed, the way they integrated the race parts into the older kit. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of race parts in it to make the, the racing version. Say, make this so that they did not destroy the factory stock version, which is what I was going for. You see, they give you the decals to make two different cars. One is the 1982 car, and one is the 1983 car. Aside from there being different drivers and a few different associate sponsorships, one of the biggest differences in the car is, you notice on the 82, the bumpers are just white. On the 83 car, they got the metallic blue stripes on them, the way that the body does. Very good, very cool decal sheet in here, cartograph printed. It's, I don't know really much more to say about that other than, like I said, the differences in the livery options. The 1983 one very prominently sponsored by Scotch, and that'd be tape, not whiskey. So here's your decal sheet here. It's very nice, very very well registered. I guess that pretty much covers it. As I say, there's all this, like OSHA printing, or OBA, excuse me, not OSHA, OBA printing and stuff like that. That would be one driver, and then the other driver is Satch, so that would be his thing. This, I like the way they broke this decal for the fenders up. So this goes, above the wheel arch, and then this goes on the wheel arch, so that you're not trying to get a decal to go down over. They do include both sets of wheels, because the 1983 car, let's see if I can do this without dropping everything everywhere. The 1982 car runs the full set of the sort of 4-spoke wheels, and then the 1983 car has like a 5-spoke or a 6-spoke wheel on the front, and then, like I said, a Watanabes on the back. So they did include both sets of wheels. You would, of course, have to buy 2 of them to get a set of those wheels, because they only include 2 each. But hey, you want an 82 and an 83, right? I can't really show you the wheels that are buried a little too far in there, but it's like I said, this was an excellent kit when it came out in the factory stock option, and it's just a little bit cooler to me as a race car, just because it's an odd subject matter, first of all, because this is like a weird racing series. But they really did a lot of cool work on that in order to get it to produce a kit that is functionally what it is, rather than just being sort of what we see out of a lot of race car kits, which was like, hey, it's a livery on a car, and maybe we threw half a roll cage in, and yeah, it's good. No, they really went and did a lot of work on that. So the final thing that's in this box here would be, and because you can't get them in the United States, well, you can if they're existing stock, and I'm sure they'll probably be coming back sooner than later, but you couldn't get them right now, is the Revell, nominally of Germany. Now it would just be the Revell. Porsche Diesel Junior 108 tractor. Somebody saw me when I was talking about these. Like, you bought the tractor. Well, my Ferguson is lonely. It needs another period tractor piece. It'd be very cool if they made a Lamborghini tractor. Now, Lamborghini still makes tractors. It's technically not the same company that makes the cars. It was founded by the same man, but not technically the same company. But, having another period tractor would be cool. Now, I know that before the whole bankruptcy thing, there was when Revell was going to release this kit as a reboxed U.S. kit, there was a thing they call it Tractor Series, so who knows what they have up their sleeves, but, yeah, snap tight, but still pretty cool. Builds into a really nice kit from what I've seen a few of these that are built, so, is what it is. That's one of those kits you either get or you don't. That's the way I see it. You're either like, ooh, cool, Porsche tractor, or you're, ugh, Porsche tractor. So, guys, I think that pretty much wraps this one up. So, anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the other side.